Ozempic is everywhere, and people either love it or they hate it. Some people think it's a miracle drug, and others think that people are taking it for the wrong reasons. Well, we're going to dive into that today on the Prescription Press, the podcast where we break down medical news stories into information that we can actually use. I'm your host, Nolan Fisher. I'm a physician. Let's dive into Ozempic. All right, so prior to getting into the article, I want to tell you a quick background story about my experience working in an obesity clinic and the results I was seeing with Ozempic. Now, this was about 2 years ago, and it was prior to Ozempic taking off in the news and all these weight loss drugs getting like widespread recognition in social media and from different media outlets. And what I saw in the obesity clinic were that people were taking these medications and they were losing significant amounts of weight. A lot of times these people were very inactive too, and then they started to lose some weight and they started to get more active at the same time. Now, whether or not that's because the doctor was telling them that they needed to exercise and they were then doing it at that instruction, or if it was just because they started to see some results, so they started making some more positive changes in their lives, it's hard to tell. But from what I saw, this medication was causing these people to lose a lot of weight. Their diabetes was improving, and overall their life was getting better. So that's kind of the lens I saw Ozempic with. The big issue was it was so expensive and really hard to get insurances to cover it. But that was what I had seen, where that these patients were losing a ton of weight on it. You fast forward about a year, and Ozempic starts to take off on social media and across different media sites because celebrities are taking it to lose weight. And several celebrities came out and said that they were taking this drug and that it worked really well. And so as a result, it's just blown up and people are using it all over the place just to lose weight. So there's been a lot of debate around Ozempic, whether it's truly should be used for weight loss or if it should be just for diabetes. Some people are making the argument that it's not available and people are using it to lose weight, which is preventing diabetics from getting their treatment. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. There's a lot of debate about this medication. A little background on it, it works on a receptor called GLP-1, which is present in several areas of our body. The main three are the pancreas, the stomach, and in the brain. In the pancreas, it makes our bodies more sensitive to insulin. Type 2 diabetes is an insulin sensitivity-based disease. When people have trouble with their metabolism, when typically they become obese and then they become less active, their body doesn't know how to metabolize sugar well. And so your body is not as responsive to insulin as it used to be. And insulin is responsible for getting the sugar out of your blood. So as a result, their blood sugars go up and they develop complications from that, like heart disease, skin issues, peripheral artery disease, and all sorts of other things. With the stomach, the GLP-1 receptor causes delayed gastric emptying. So basically the food you eat sits in your stomach for longer, which in turn makes you feel fuller. And then on the brain, the GLP-1 receptor makes you feel full as well. And so it suppresses the appetite, it delays how fast the food goes out of your stomach, and then it causes your body to be more sensitive to insulin. So with that being said, let's get into this article. It's an article that I found on Medscape, and it's called How Social Media is Fueling Enthusiasm for New Weight Loss Drugs. Are regulators watching? Social media is fueling enthusiasm for new weight loss drugs. Are regulators watching? Let's dive into this article. It starts with Suzette Zuena is her own best advertisement for weight loss. Zuena, the founder and visionary of LH Spa and Rejuvenation in Livingston and Madison, New Jersey, has dropped 30 pounds. Her husband has lost 42. Side note, I love that Zuena labels herself as the founder and visionary. Visionary, incredible. When I think of visionaries, I think of Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Buddha, and also, of course, Suzette from New Jersey. But anyway, her and her husband have lost a lot of weight, and they're obviously trying to make some money off of it. So good for them for losing the weight. Let's see. We go out a lot, Zuena said, of the pair's social routine. People saw us basically shrinking. They would ask how the couple did it. Her response: point people to her spa and relatively new type of medication, GLP-1 agonists, a class of drugs that's become a weight loss phenomenon. So the GLP agonists are what we talked about before that cause the feeling of fullness and the delayed gastric emptying and then the insulin sensitivity. The GLP-1 drugs that we hear about are semaglutide, which is Ozempic and Wegovy, and then there's another one that's called Mounjaro that works in the same way. But she's not just spreading her message in person, she's also doing it on Instagram. And she's not alone. A chorus of voices is singing these drugs' praise. Last summer, investment bank Morgan Stanley found mentions of one of these drugs on TikTok had tripled. People are streaming into doctors' offices to inquire about what they've heard are miracle drugs. What these patients have heard, doctors said, is nonstop hype, even misinformation from social media influencers. And this cracks me up that doctors get so upset at social media influencers. I think that if you have good information and you want to share it, if you're a physician or whatever job you're in, and you're sick of social media influencers saying the wrong thing, get out there yourself on social media because it's available to everybody. And I feel like you're just upset that people are out there talking. If you have something good to say, get out there and say it yourself. I'll catch people asking for the skinny pen, the weight loss shot, or Ozempic, said Priya Jaisanghi. That's definitely wrong. An endocrinologist and clinical assistant professor at New York University's Grossman School of Medicine. Competition to claim a market that could be worth $100 billion a year for drug makers alone has triggered a wave of advertising that has provoked the concern of regulators and doctors worldwide. But their tools for curbing the ads that go too far are limited, especially when it comes to social media. Regulatory systems are most interested in pharma's claims, not necessarily those of doctors or their enthused patients. They seem to be getting at that they should censor what patients say about medications. But if patients have positive responses from medications, I think they should be able to say whatever they want on social media. It's your job as somebody else, if you hear about something, to do that research yourself or go talk to your physician. It's not like somebody's going to hear something from someone who took a medication and then be able to just go pick that medication up at their local grocery store. They still need to go talk to their doctor and get a prescription. Few drugs of this type are approved by the FDA for weight loss. They include Novo Nordisk's Wegovy. But after shortages made that treatment harder to get, patients turned to other pharmaceuticals like Novo Nordisk Ozempic and Eli Lilly's Mounjaro that are approved only for type 2 diabetes. Which is hilarious because Wegovy and Ozempic are the same medication. Wegovy just happens to be a higher dose, and they sought out FDA approval for weight loss, whereas Ozempic, they only sought out FDA approval for type 2 diabetes. Those are often used off-label, though you wouldn't hear that from many of their online boosters. This is also hilarious too. Some of our most important medications are used off-label. Off-label use is super common. And there's drugs like, a good example would be Prazosin, which is a blood pressure medication, is used to treat nightmares and PTSD. And that drug company is not going to go back and resubmit FDA approval, waste millions of dollars to doing that, just so it can get labeled as approved for nightmares. So this off-label thing just cracks me up the way they make it sound like it's so bad. This is done all the time. And it also cracks me up that Wegovy is approved for weight loss and Ozempic isn't, even though they're the same medication. And Mounjaro is a similar medication. It just works, it works about the same way as the other two. The drugs have shown promising clinical results. Patients can lose as much as 15% of their body weight. Novo Nordisk is sponsoring research to examine whether Wegovy causes reductions in the rate of heart attacks for patients with obesity. And I think this is a good idea by them because you think if people have lower weight, they're less obese, they're going to be at lower risk for heart attack. I would assume that's going to end up being the case. It also ends up giving them a better argument, which is why they're doing that. They can say the insurance should cover it because they can prevent heart attacks, so therefore it would be more beneficial. The medications, though, come at a high price. Wegovy runs patients paying cash at least $1,300 a month in the Washington, D.C. area, according to a GoodRx search in late March. Insurers only sometimes cover the costs, and patients typically regain much of their lost weight after they stop taking it. Hype is driving demand, but patients are not necessarily coming to doctors' offices now because of the science. They're citing things they saw on TikTok, like Chelsea Handler and other celebrities talking about their injections. It leads to the questions: how come she can get it? And why can I not? I have a pretty simple answer for this one. She has more money than you. And if she has more money, she's going to find a way to get it. And this is what Juliana Simonetti said, a physician and co director of the Comprehensive Weight Management Program at the University of Utah. The excitement, which doctors worry may cause some patients to use medications inappropriately, is coming also from business interests. Some are doctors promoting their venture capital backed startups. Others are spas hawking everything from wrinkle smoothing and plumping to, yes, weight loss benefits of semaglutide, the active ingredient in Wegovy and Ozempic. Their prices, often in the hundreds of dollars, are well below what consumers would pay if picking up the prescription at a pharmacy. And this is an issue. It's like they're upset that people are getting this medication at a cheaper cost. I think that there's so much hate for these med spas from traditional hospital systems, and it's hilarious the way they say it in here, from wrinkle smoothing and lip plumping to, yes, weight loss. These people at the med spas are just giving people what they want. The other thing that I think traditional hospital systems need to take away from this is that people are going to these med spas because they're approachable. The traditional hospital system is scary for a lot of people. It's very stale, it's dry. You go into an exam room, some doctor walks in, it's this cold exam room. The doctor walks in, doesn't even look you in the eye, just taps away on the keyboard as you're talking, and then they write you a script until you get out of there after 15 minutes. Meanwhile, these med spas are treating people in the way that they want to be treated. They're warm, they're welcoming, they offer all these things that they want, and they do a great job of marketing. I think traditional doctors' offices need to take a page out of this book. In the US, the FDA has oversight over ads from the pharmaceutical industry, which must acknowledge risks and side effects of drugs. But ads from people who write prescriptions don't necessarily have the same restrictions. FDA regulations apply if the prescriber is working on behalf of a regulatory entity like a pharmaceutical manufacturer distributor. Then they go on basically say that, what the FDA has, the power the FDA has doesn't always reach over like doctors who are on social media or people posting on social media about drugs. I mean, they can only have so much ability to do that. We have free speech in our country. So unless they want to take away free speech, then that's what they have to deal with. And then they cite Australia taking down 1,900 ads. Well, I mean, their regulators in Australia are dealing with a different constitution. But let's skip ahead in the article because this part's important. Doctors are also sounding alarms about the publicity. They believe patients will be driven to use these medications off-label, obtain unreliable forms of these drugs, or exacerbate other health conditions like eating disorders. The drugs act in part as an appetite suppressant, which can dramatically reduce calorie intake to a concerning degree when not paired with nutritional guidance. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're supposed to do. One thing I agree with there, though, is that if you're taking these medications, you should definitely have some nutritional guidance. You should see a dietitian who can work with you on this, because ultimately, you're going to want to make sure that you're still getting the nutrition that you need while you're cutting down the overall calories. And if you can do that, then hopefully after a period of time, you can come slowly off the medication while keeping those good habits. And then you won't have to deal with the 75% of weight that's typically regained when people come off of these meds. Elizabeth Wassenaar, probably butchered that name too, a regional medical director for the Eating Recovery Center, believes the drugs and associated advertising buildup will inadvertently trigger eating disorders. I mean, you can make the argument that people who are obese already have an eating and an activity disorder because you're eating too much and you're not active enough. So I think, yeah, well, I agree they could trigger disordered eating. You could argue that they already have disordered eating. KFF Health News found ads showing thin patients measuring themselves with a tape measure and stepping on the scale with accompanying captions, goading viewers into going on GLP-1s. Yeah, I always found those ads really creepy. The whole measuring yourself with tape measure, odd. They're being marketed very, very pointedly to groups that are vulnerable to experiencing body image dissatisfaction. Remy Bader, curve model and TikTok creator specializing in documenting her realistic clothing buys, told one podcast her story of coming off a few months on Ozempic. She said she gained twice the weight back and that her binge eating disorder got so much worse. And then there was a study that showed that people gain back 2/3 of the weight they lose, which is, part of the thing with these drugs that if they suppress the appetite and then you come off of it, it makes sense that you would have a rebound increase in appetite. So that's definitely something that needs to be figured out, is how to get off these medications safely without regaining all of that weight. But social media users and influencers, whether with white coats or ordinary patients, are hopping on every platform to spread news of positive weight loss outcomes. There are those, for instance, who had gastric bypass surgery that didn't work and are now turning to TikTok for guidance, support, and hope as they begin taking a GLP-1. There's even a poop-centric Facebook group in which people discuss the sometimes fraught topic of the drug's effect on their bowel movements. It can cause diarrhea. Commercialism, compounding spark excitement and concern. Some have been so delighted by their medication-assisted weight loss that they have become brand ambassadors. Samantha Kleshinger, another name. These names in this episode are not easy. Has dropped at least 58 pounds since she started on Mounjaro. She heard of the drug and her telemedicine weight loss program sequence on TikTok. She and many others who have experienced considerable weight loss since starting the medication regimen point to its positive impact and their improved quality of life. This is it. This is the first time in the history of the world that TikTok has made people's lives better. With that being said, that's the point of taking this drug, right? You can lose weight, become more active, and live a better life. That's good. So I don't know why there's such a pushback. Yes, there are people that are going to try to make money off of it and promise things that they cannot guarantee. But with that said, it seems to me like the benefits far outweigh the negatives here. Though Kleshinger, a mother of two from the Chicago area, is not diabetic, she uses Mounjaro. When she was growing up, her parents had type 2 diabetes and other chronic diseases that led to them both to have open heart surgery. Her father lost his life to complications of diabetes. She wants to avoid that fate. But her story, combining a personal journey with a profit-making entity, is symbolic of another trend on social media: commercialism. Yes, people are trying to make money on social media. Who would have thought? There's a spate of startups eyeing big money matching pharmaceuticals and related support with patients. I mean, if I were a pharmaceutical company, I would want the people who have the best experience with my product to tell others about it. If I were a plumber, I would want people who have the best experience with my plumbing service to tell others about it. So I don't know why this is a big deal. Some doctors use social media to educate viewers about the drugs. Great. Michael Albert, Chief Medical Officer of telehealth practice Accomplish Health, says offering information to his more than 250,000 followers has helped point patients to the medical practice. It's received thousands of patient inquiries, more than the clinic can take on. Companies like Accomplish, startups with well-credentialed doctors, are the glossy side of the social media boom. I mean, good for this guy. I love that he's taken to social media, and if you have the right intentions and he's doing the right things, he can help people out. So good for him. But there are others, like mini spas and weight loss centers, that offer their drugs, sometimes without much medical support, often alongside Botox and dermal fillers. Obesity doctors worry such marketing is creating unrealistic expectations. Some spas and telemedicine operators claim to have compounded semaglutide. But compounding when pharmacies rather than drug manufacturers prepare a drug is a risky proposition, doctors caution. The risks are enormous, Simonetti says. Warning of potential contamination from poor compounding practices. The risks of getting bacteria, she warned. The risks include death. There are compounding pharmacies out there that are fantastic. and I'm sure there are ones that are not good. If you source it from the right people and it's reliable, this shouldn't be an issue. People use compounded medications all the time. So saying that just because this one's compounded is an issue, I don't know. I mean, we use compounded pharmacies in hospitals compound medications. So I don't think this is a big deal. It's also saving people a lot of money. So I don't know. Maybe the pharmaceutical companies paid for this article or something. We'll see. Weight loss clinics are also frequently tout unconventional additions to semaglutide, including vitamin B12 and amino acids. Some patients incorrectly believe the former helps with nausea. Maybe it does. I have no idea about that. Novo Nordisk spokesperson Allison Schneider, finally got one of the names right, told KFF Health News in an email that the company shares doctors' concerns about compounding. Of course they do, because they're losing money on it, and that it's begun sending letters warning certain healthcare providers about the related risk. Some operations defend their use of often cheaper compounded drugs. LH Spa and Rejuvenation, founded by Zuena, the visionary, offers a compounded semaglutide formulation from QRX Weight Loss for $500 over 4 weeks. That is significantly cheaper, less than half the price of Ozempic or Wegovy. The spa learned about the regimen from a doctor. I'm purchasing it, Swaina said. It comes next day air in legitimate vials with lot numbers expirations. And their injections are overseen on site. Most operators in this burgeoning industry are keen to emphasize their product's high quality or their company's good works as they seek money. Roe, a telehealth firm offering GLP-1s, said its marketing campaign in the New York City subway aims to start an important, sometimes difficult conversation focused on destigmatizing obesity as a condition. This widespread tactic is nothing short of maddening for pharma industry critics. They talk about trying to destigmatize obesity. At the same time, they're talking about losing weight. They're co-opting the concept, said Judy Butler, a research fellow at Farmed Out, a Georgetown University Medical Center project focusing on evidence-based practices for drugs. They're trying to sell a weight loss drug. It, this cracks me up, dude. Of course they're trying to sell a weight loss drug. People know that obesity is associated with earlier death, higher risk of heart disease, higher risk of strokes, cancer, all sorts of things. So, of course, they're trying to sell a weight loss drug, as they should be. And, you know, they talk about destigmatizing obesity. Yeah, we shouldn't make fun of people or think less of them because they're obese. But the truth is, most obese people would like to lose weight and feel better. So, I don't think that they should say that obesity isn't a condition. It's a condition, but that doesn't mean that we have to treat people who are obese poorly. And I think we should help find solutions so that people can live healthier, happier, and better lives where they don't have to worry about their increased risk of heart disease or strokes because of obesity. So, with that being said, that's the end of the article. I do have a couple takeaways, and that's that people in power don't like when others make the rules. And my point here is that the traditional medical establishment is now seeing a lot of their patients go to med spas for weight loss, and they're going to different weight loss specific clinics, and they don't like it because they like to be in control. And this is a big issue, in my opinion, with the traditional medical establishment because there's a sense of entitlement that they're entitled to be the only ones that can care for the patients. These med spas offer a warm, welcoming environment. And yes, sometimes they do overpromise and they push medications that don't have a lot of evidence behind them. But semaglutide or Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, these have evidence behind them and they work for weight loss. So I don't think this is a bad thing. I think that these medical establishment people that are upset about this, they need to get out there on social media. They need to say what they think and they need to teach people what they know. And they also need to make traditional medicine seem more approachable. Because if they can do that, people won't be so inconvenienced or against going to the doctor's office. And right now, people feel uh, it's a stressful experience for people to go to the doctor's office. Where a med spa, where they can just walk in, it's much lower stress. And that's why they're going there. And then the second thing that I have is that Ozempic or semaglutide is just a tool. And it's a powerful tool, and it's a tool that we're going to be able to use for the long term. While it's an injection now and it's super expensive, it's going to get cheaper, and there's going to be oral forms of this medication at some point. And so, as it becomes a tool that we can use more easily, we need to understand how to incorporate this into our treatment plan so that way we can help people live healthier lives. And when it comes to drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro, that includes not only using the medication to suppress the appetite, but then giving people the resources to get to work out, to go to gyms, to get the appropriate amount of exercise in so that they can start turning around their metabolism to get it to burn off that excess weight. And so then, whenever they're coming off the medication, their metabolism is ready to go. And a big part of that is going to be lifestyle interventions too. And I'm talking about meeting with a dietitian so that they can develop a plan for when their appetite starts to increase coming off this medication, a plan so that they can eat the most healthy foods and have the healthy habits so that way they don't regain the weight. My guess is that we're going to develop a strategy for tapering off this medication slowly that will result with less weight being put on. But ultimately, if we come off this medication and we haven't changed any of the habits that we had, including exercise and diet, then that weight's going to slowly come back on. And that's all I have for Ozempic. We'll see how things change as more and more people start using this medication to lose weight. We'll also hopefully see the price of it come down so that more people can use it. And that's today's episode of the Prescription Press. Thanks for stopping by. I'm your host, Nolan Fisher. I'll see you next time.